Welcome to the first ever episode of the Lore Gremlin Podcast. I am your host, So Peachy, the Archivist Gremlin.
And I'm MD, your resident Rex enthusiast.
And today, being the first episode, we thought we would delve into what happened within Westhaven Arc1, which has recently come to an end. Theories we had back then, what actually came true, and theories we have for Season 2, essentially. And before we get started, I'd like to say in the description below, we will have links to Siren Sun's YouTube channel, links to videos we mentioned, and a link to his Discord, being that he is bringing us the content that we are talking about today. So, let's get started with our favorite pink-haired boy, Cam, which is the first ever Westhaven, specific video we get, essentially, from his YouTube channel. Yeah, I thought it was Zeke. It was actually Cam.
Me too. I forgot because it's not even labeled like bully or whatever. It's boy with pink hair, and the next is like
boy with the pink hair. Yeah. So, what happened in that episode? We meet the boy with the pink hair who basically bumped into the listener and had a cut on his hand. I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Something like that. He was getting chased and he was trying to play it off, and I was like, bro, you're literally like getting stuff thrown at you.
Like, clearly someone is after you in this moment. You are not just running for the heck of it. So then, being the stubborn listener that we are, we take him under the bleachers and try to tend to his wound because, it's not cool. Oh, so then Cam finally reveals within that episode that his cut was from Noah and Jace, who are essentially the antagonist of Westhaven society life.
One of many. Not one of many. Two of many.
Two of many.
Many.
And they mainly bully him because of his naturally pink hair, which is told to us to be an uncommon thing, but not so rare that it's like the weirdest thing in the world, essentially. Some people have pink hair. Wonder why.
I remember being so confused about that when... Sorry, didn't mean to interject, but I remember being so confused about that when, we first found out that's why they were bullying him. I was like, people have hair dye and do whatever they want all the time. Why is this the problem?
Yeah.
And then we found out there was more, and it's Jace is just a character.
Jace, yeah, I know. That guy. So, and then basically, end of that video, the listener, become his friend. So, the pink-haired boy who is being bullied gets his friend. All seems good. So then, after that, we get into Zeke, the first ever episode with Zeke. Your bully confesses his love to you. This is definitely one of my favorites.
Yes.
I mean, Zeke as a whole is just quite the wholesome character. Rewatching this first episode, though, I was like, wow. He was a bully.
He really was. The character development. We love it.
Yeah, it's chef's kiss,
Truly.
Okay. Do you want to go over the episode?
Sure. So we bump into him in the hallway. Oh, I'm gonna say we a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, we bump into him into the hallway. Oh my gosh. And so we get into this altercation. We egg him on, and then he chases us into a classroom, which somehow ends up being locked. And then you have this kind of a heart-to-heart moment, and it's really sweet. You find out his home situation's not really great. He's actually targeted the listener all this time because he actually admires them. It's really nice. Well, not the bullying, but finding out, there's actually, I don't actually hate you.
A reason behind it.
There's a reason, yeah. And it's, I'll be better. There's active, active betterment. That's not a word, but we're going to go with it.
Completely understand you, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, yeah, I think there's not plans made yet, but like there's definitely reconciliation and like, oh yeah, moving forward, we're a thing.
Yeah. And
And that's
within that, he also confesses, that he actually had liked the listener from the first time he saw them in middle school.
that's insane. So long.
I know, so
I don't even remember
long.
the people I liked in middle school.
And then one of the key things to take from this first ever episode, which we probably had dismissed when we first listened to it, was the classroom and the door that has a bad lock, which would
Oh
later
yeah.
end up being a key part of, the Westhaven arc itself.
Nice nice little like not Easter egg. What is it like? Foreshadowing. That's
Foreshadowing, tying it in, yeah.
hmm and that is like that episode that audio is like the day before his next one,
Mhm.
which is just a
Yeah.
cute date. You find out more about his home life and how his mother walked out on him, and his dad is the only parental figure. They don't have a good relationship by any means. He takes us to the lake. It's so cute.
So
Um,
sweet.
really is secret romantic. You find that out very early.
Yeah. He takes us to, like, one of the only places where he feels, like, calm and, like, at peace, which is very, like, letting someone into something like that is very, like,
So soon too.
vulnerable?
hmm He really just needs people. He was just by
Mhm.
himself a lot before, right? He didn't have any friends, and now he
Yeah.
has a person. It's like I want to share everything with you.
Yeah, which is just so dang sweet.
It's so cute. Darn these men. Sorry. Oh my gosh.
And then after that is him asking us to prom, I think it was?
Isn't Cam's episode is before or after that?
Oh god.
I think it's
Um,
before. I
yes,
want to
it
say
oh,
what
no,
is it?
actually, the prom asking out to prom was before, um, Cam part 2.
Dang, we got like 3 Zeke before another part of
Before a
Cam.
second Cam.
Dang, Cam.
So then after, part 2, where he takes us to his, like, little spot, the next one, he plans to ask the listener out to prom, where we kind of get a sneak peek at Zeke and his situation with his father, who, you know the listener is supposedly like outside on the porch while the two of them are arguing with inside the house. And um it kind of like ties into this whole idea of like the both of them not seeing themselves as like worthy enough and kind of putting that on each other,
Mhm.
which is just, very it's really sad to see. And it kind of puts, his father, who we later learn to be Greg, as the villain. But, later, we kind of get to see another side to the story.
Yeah.
So within that episode, he takes us to the old middle school, which is now closed down. I guess that happens to schools. I don't know. I always thought that was kind of weird, but
What happened? It's like I
what?
know there's like a that's not important. We're gonna stay on track.
Yeah, but still, little sus, but whatever. Um, and of course, he takes us to the rooftop with the picnic and asks us to prom, and it's this sweet thing.
If it's closed down, how did you get access to the roof?
It's Zeke. They broke in.
Oh god.
He was like a bully and basically a delinquent. So,
True.
he's still a bit of a learning curve.
Mhm. I'm gonna be better, but also like these skills that I picked up kind of helpful.
And then after that we get part 2, finally, part 2 of Cam protecting us from bullies.
No, I was gonna say this is the first time we actually heard from Jason Noah.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty
Who
crazy.
I initially didn't think that they were going to be that big of a deal, but apparently they
Me
are that big.
neither. Also, especially Noah.
Yeah, but
Uh,
gosh, they have quite the plan bubbling and brewing.
mhm.
So yeah, within that episode, essentially, the listener um gets hurt during one of the war games like training. And I think this might be the first time we're hearing about the war games in the Westhaven series,
Yeah.
which is kind of like this kind of ambiguous thing. I guess it's some kind of like sports event that Westhaven holds.
It's like, every school has like a spirit week or something. It's like one of those
And they have the war games, like any
Mhm.
other school.
'Cause we're like a private school with, our own unique kind of stuff.
Yes, very, very unique indeed. So then in that, Cam, of course, comes to our rescue, taking us to the nurse's office. But who do we bump into? Oh, yes, we bump into the lovely Jace and Noah,
Oh my gosh.
where...
The first thing they say too, well, I guess this is
Mhm,
something we're gonna find out later, um, is, he says, I told you this before, I was like, I never even realized. He said, "All I had to do was play dead." And in the moment,
mhm,
you're like, "Oh, that makes no sense." But if you listen to Grayson, like the first character Siren ever made,
mhm.
and you hear that storyline, it's actually talking, you find out Jace is, I don't know if this is getting ahead of ourselves, but
No, it's good. We'll bounce back and forth.
yeah. So context for people that don't know. I don't know if how you found us if you don't know. Um, Grayson is a werewolf, right? You live in this world
Yes.
where you have, I was to say magical realism, but it's whatever. You have, vampires and werewolves living on
Yeah.
Earth in secret, and
Mhm,
you have this guy Jake Grayson who is injured. His listener finds him and heals him, and he goes back and finds his back. Something happens. I don't remember all of the details, especially in like the first in his series.
yeah,
Like he somehow finds out that finds his pack all slaughtered,
yeah.
and he comes across his cousin Jace, and you also find out Grayson Belladonna, right? He finds
Mhm,
his cousin dead, and he's torn up about it. He's like, "Who could have done this? A hunter," because they're the only ones that really know about who they are.
mhm.
And they find the hunter. Turns out it's Grayson's listener's brother, which is crazy.
Yeah, quite the turn of
And
events.
for real, it's like, you knew about this entire world and you didn't tell me? Rude.
Mhm.
But so you think, Jace is dead, right? And then you hear the name again, and I didn't make a connection at first because I don't know. I just didn't.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, most of the time we're listening to these audio now we listen
Mhm.
to them so intently, but initially when we first all started listening, we're like, "Ah, listen to these stories, like, yeah, this guy
Yeah,
saved us." Now we're like, "Where's the lore? Who's connected to who?"
honestly. Like, I was in my first ever, like, VA that I ever listened to. He also has like a theories, channel, or yeah,
Mhm.
channel in his server, and I would see the paragraphs people wrote in there, and I would get so intimidated. I was like, I had to mute that channel, and like they were like, oh, a character's tone of voice change, something's gonna happen to him, like, or like there's gonna be like a serious moment. He sounds almost sad, and I was like, y'all are paying attention to tone. I'm barely hanging on to his words. I'm just like, oh, pleasant noise in the background. This
Mhm.
character's kind of goofy, and then sure enough, they were right. There was like a kind of reverse comfort episode after. And I was like, what? How do y'all know? This is scary. But
Yeah.
like, like before, you don't really think about, names and, key, like the whole, like this whole, oh, all I had to do was play dead. Turns out Jace
Mhm.
is very much alive. He's the
Yeah.
one that turned in the pack to the hunter for reasons unknown.
Yeah.
Um,
Still theorizing about that
yeah,
one.
we've never gotten like a straight answer, which is like, dude, come on.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it's funny because within that part 2 of Cam calls Jace a mad dog, which
mhm.
makes Jace very aggressive,
You're like, why does
obviously
that bother
because
you?
It's like, wow, like, cool it, I just called you a mad dog, but clearly there's a reason, because he's a
Mhm.
werewolf.
You don't even think about it until after, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, this all makes sense."
Mhm. So then
Yeah.
within that altercation, Cam actually fights off Jace a little bit, and then we
For the
hear a new
first time.
voice. We hear a new voice, which is Coach Abe Gregor, Cam's father. He rushes
Mhm.
to the scene and immediately, breaks up the fight, tells Noah and Jace to go to Principal Hill's office.
Mhm.
Clearly nothing happens from that, but he did
Yeah,
it anyway.
and a big part of that of the actual fight is Cam at some point, like, Jace says something like, "I'm gonna hurt you," or whatever, "I'm gonna kill you," and then Cam says, "But you don't want to," and there's, Siren doesn't affect, but clearly there's something about his tone
Mm-hmm.
that persuades Jace to be like, "But I don't," and he's like, "Wait, what?" And that effect is kind of like, it reminded me of, like, if I don't, people who haven't read these books aren't really gonna know, but I don't know. Heroes on Olympus? Yeah. You know how,
Mm-hmm.
Piper is able to be really persuasive, and she's a child of
Yeah.
Aphrodite, right? I find that's really, like, it's funny how similar that is, right? Because, like, he can,
Yeah. Wow.
he can charm people and convince people, or at least that's their trait, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're able to charm people and, "Oh, hey, I can get them to do what they," get the person to do what they want. That there's too many days, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. And after Cam, like, does that and kind of, like, shows a little bit of more himself where we're seeing, like, "Oh, what is this
Mhm.
thing?" And you might dismiss it until Abe comes in and says, and I'm reading specifically what he said, "By all means defend yourself, but don't lash out in rage. I don't want something to happen that you'll regret." Cam is a very small, thin boy. What could he do? Unless there's some other thing.
Yeah, and doesn't Abe say, like, before, like, "Oh, he felt like something?"
Yeah, he was like, oh, I think he actually was like, "Oh my god, it's Cam," or something like that. Like, he knew
Mhm.
it was Cam immediately, but he didn't seem like he was in the vicinity of, like,
Yeah,
seeing it happen.
'cause
So,
no one else, if he was in he would see, something happening, people getting
yeah.
involved.
But he was like, "Oh, that must be Cam." It's like, "What must be Cam?" "Oh, just him using some powers of some kind."
Mhm.
And then within this episode, we get, Jace's last name, Belladonna, which confirms his connection to Grayson in the Werewolf
Yeah.
series. And then also, Cam's pink hair is confirmed as a genetic trait, from Abe's father,
Mhm.
who he doesn't talk much about it. He just says all he left us was basically, the pink hair.
But that's not entirely true, is it, Abe?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So yeah, no, it's good. We're justified in being mad. He should have let Cam know a little bit more because now
Honestly.
Cam and them are not in a good spot. But
Mhm.
so then at the end of this audio, Noah and Jace plan to do something to Cam at prom, which leads us into the next audio.
Oh, also, one more thing. Uh, this is, I know we're going into a lot of, like, detail and stuff, but, like, we're also, like, I don't know how to phrase this. Um, for people that, like, I think we're in, like, a really good place, and that we're also part of the Discord server, and that, like, and we find out things, and, we see a lot, but people don't know that he's, you know you find out later on, it's confirmed officially that he is the grandson of Nyx, this divine being. But if you're only part of the YouTube community, you see, this is the first time you ever hear anything supernatural about Cam, like,
Yeah.
ever. There's no inclination, or not inclination. There's no uh hint to that besides the naturally pink hair. But,
Yeah.
like, you wouldn't that's just, "Oh, in this world, people naturally have pink hair," or something like that, right? You don't know that there's something, beyond that
Mhm.
until that audio, which
Yeah.
is really, and even you might not even pick up on it. It's such a small moment. And then,
It really
Abe
is
comes
one
in.
of those things that when I first watched it, I didn't even catch it.
I was like, "What's going on? What's the weird
Yeah, I'm
the
very
the reverb
confused.
in the back?" But yeah, so it's um I think yeah, that's a good thing to I think not pick up on, but like you have that's like the first time you ever hear, "Oh
Yeah,
yeah."
that little detail.
Mhm. It's always in the details, guys.
I know, and Siren's really good at that. He's really good at, like, just sprinkling in some little lore bits that you might not catch at first
Uh,
glance or first listen, I suppose. So then, after Cam gets bullied, Noah and Jace have a plan brewing, and it is time for prom. Um, Zeke picks up the listener from their home to take them to prom, and he
mhm,
gives the listener a blue flower from a florist. I'm putting air quotes. You can't see that, but you know what I mean. Saying that it
mhm.
is a rare flower. That's just a little hint to a certain someone that we might have an episode featuring later on
Oh
in the
my
future.
gosh. I just I just realized I went and looked back at the audios 'cause, you don't know anything about the flower. You just hear there's a blue flower and you're like, "Oh, cool." You don't find out what it actually is until, like, a
Much
while
later.
after. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
Bruh.
he
Okay.
he really do be sprinkling in those lore bits?
Just gives you a little handful just crumbs.
Just
Thank you, sir.
crumbs.
Oh, wow.
So then they go out to eat, then they go to prom. When they get to prom, they have the slow dance, and this is the first time we get to hear about other classmates within Westhaven.
Mhm.
So Zeke starts pointing out people in the crowd. He points out Corey and Onyx, who are in the Hunter.
Mm-mm. Corey is a hunter and Onyx
Corey's a
is a
hunter.
taker, which is very interesting.
Taker. Oh yeah. So they're together like they always have been. We have the first mention of Keon, our
You're
lovely
like
info broker. And
who's
he
a
is
fan of
trying to
Keon?
smooth talk all the girls at prom, even those that are
Everyone.
taken.
Doesn't matter. Casting a wide net.
Yep. Anything he can get. And then also mentioning the tall, silent gardener guy, which is Pierce, who will be mentioned in some other episodes.
You don't even
We
get a
also,
name then.
yeah, he just the tall, silent
Just tall,
gardener
silent
guy.
boy.
Yeah, who was also mentioned in Cam's first episode because Cam liked to hang out by the garden. That's where he also got
Mhm.
hurt by Jace. But yeah.
I was gonna say, like, we probably should talk about this later. Um, in in that the second Cam episode, you don't
Hmm.
really learn a lot. What you get from Noah and Jace, I think, are very it's very surface level because also you don't see them a lot, but you don't learn how truly, I guess, sadistic they
Yeah.
are until this episode. Because you're like, oh, what are they gonna do to him, right? And then you
Mhm.
find out, and you're like, oh, okay, we're going to that level.
It gets real crazy. Like the development of like what Jace and
Mhm.
Noah do throughout the series just
Yeah.
progresses like
Mhm.
really crazy.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't
Uh,
mean to jump ahead. I
no,
just
it's
realized it.
all good. We're gonna be jumping all around in this. Let's be honest.
Honestly, that's like how like like when someone tells a story and they're like, "Oh, first you have to know this. Oh wait, but then you also have to know that," and like all of that. That's literally going to be this podcast.
Yes. Welcome to
Uh,
being a lore gremlin. It is a hot mess.
for
We're
real,
working it out.
we try to be organized, but then it all kind of falls apart at some point.
Keyword try. Okay, so back to prom. Other people that are mentioned is Creepy, Connie Conway, dancing all by herself. And then Catherine Bow, who is, one of the top cheerleaders. She's one of the popular girls, and she should be with Jace, but Jace is nowhere to be found.
Just strange.
Very, very strange. So this, piques the interest of Zeke. So he approaches Keon, our famous info broker, the man who knows it all. and ask where Jason Noah is. After much convincing, Keon finally reveals that Jace was planning some payback revenge on the coach's son, being Cameron, the pink-haired boy. After learning this, Zeke is like, "Are you gonna do anything about it?" Of course, Keon is not gonna do anything about it because,
My name is Wes, and I'm not in this mess.
yeah, he's not in the mess. What's any good with having information and then, like, saving people? That's not his jam, you know?
Yeah, that's not my problem. I just find out all the details. I'm the recording. Recording. It's going on World. What is it? World Star? Yeah. World Star.
Star. Um, and so, after that, Zeke and the listener are like, okay, we gotta go figure out where the hell, Jace is. So
Mhm.
they
'Cause it's
try to figure
obviously
out
up
where
to no
Jace,
good.
yeah, Jace and Noah, they find them at the pool, and they have Cam inside the pool with the pool cover over him.
Literally drowning this kid.
Yeah.
They're like, "This
Jace
is
is like,
fine.
oh, he's got an inch of, air. Like,
What is wrong with
this
you?
like,
Psychopath?"
this is clearly the point where we're like, okay,
That's the surprise.
things are
That's like,
going a little too far.
you should not be around other people,
Yeah.
like, ever. But I guess, like, and also this is, like, before I guess us in the server, we made the connection that, like, or at least for me, right, that,
Mhm.
he's the same person that, or no, I guess he did say, "I didn't, tell the hunter where the pack was." But I
Mhm.
guess I didn't make the connection or something. Like, something happened, and, like,
So
we
many
realized, "Oh,
things
yeah, he
happen,
tipped him
it's hard
off."
to
Yeah.
connect everything.
Also, I'm just dumb and disorganized. My brain is
Oh gosh,
But,
no.
um, but you're like, "Oh, yeah, maybe he tipped him off, but he didn't expect everything to happen," or whatever, right? And then you find out, no, he's actually very much into this whole sadistic kind of psychopath evil stuff. Psychopath
Yeah.
evil stuff. Yeah.
Yep. That's his new title, Psychopath Evil Stuff. Um,
Mhm.
so they find that, Zeke and the listener basically beat up Jason Noah. Noah runs off like the scared boy that he is. Jace knocked out on the floor, which thanks to Zeke and his really strong,
Buff
abilities.
boy.
So then after that, Zeke and the listener help Cam out of the pool. They all, help him dry off, and then Cam's like, "Come over to my house, we'll hang out." And that basically is like the starting point for the Westhaven series.
Of the best trio.
Yes. The iconic trio. No better.
None better. Oh my
Mhm.
goodness. English.
English is so hard.
For real. All this podcast is gonna be like us learning how to really talk.
Yeah. Welcome to the journey of how to speak English. We're not teaching you, we're learning.
You're just gonna have to suffer through us, you know.
So then after prom, we get into the Westhaven series. Do you wanna get us started on part 1 of the Westhaven series?
Oh gosh, okay. So I literally just listened to this today. Okay. So this is what, not a week or so after prom. Yeah, this is prom. Prom. This is like the week after prom, right? They had a test or whatever, and Zeke decides to invite Cam to his special place, or I guess now his hot stuff. Hot stuff also is the name now for Zeke's listener. Which the best nickname.
It's a really good nickname.
It's so good. Like, Darlin is iconic. Everyone loves Duke's Darlin, right? But
Mhm.
hot stuff
But
is like
hot stuff.
it's good. It's a gem.
Mhm.
So now it's so his and hot stuff's kind of special place, but now it's gonna be Cam's too. So they interesting thing, you actually really great lore thing is that listener shows up to Zeke's house early because they're like, oh, we're gonna meet up at my house and then we're gonna pick up Cam and head to the place. So hot stuff shows up to Zeke's house a bit early, and you finally get a conversation with Greg, which at first you're like kind of unsure. I think a lot of us were unsure about like is Greg like, a genuinely bad parent? Like, what are we going to get out of this conversation? And then you find out, for some reason, I thought it was so funny. I was like, all of these people decide to, like, something about hot stuff just makes people, like
an open
just,
book.
yeah, just like I can just give all of my, baggage to you. Because Abe goes into it a little bit, about with his dad, and like, I just want to be a better father to my kids than my dad was. And you're like, okay, I'm a high school, or, depending on how old you are, this is what high school to
Like a
college.
college type student,
Like,
yeah.
I'm not a licensed therapist, my guy. You might want to go see somebody about that. But then, and then you have Greg who actually opens up, and you're like, you find out Greg, basically, he and Zeke's mother, Irene, got married really young. Irene started then using drugs, and especially, really just one. This one you find out called Glamour. I don't know if it's actually named in that episode.
Yeah, we don't actually get the name of Glamour within this episode.
Yeah.
It's just
I don't think you
hinting.
get it. Yeah, you don't get Glamour until another character, Lucas. Like, you get the name from his second episode, right? Or not second,
Yeah.
like third.
Third episode? I think it's the third
I think so.
episode. That's when he really
Third, because
gets
third
into
is the
what
most
his
like, yeah, you
family.
get all the lore and stuff. But so you find out that she was on drugs, and she would, every time they would argue, she would go to Zeke and she would manipulate him and brainwash him into thinking, oh, your father's a terrible person. He doesn't, treat me well, and he's really just terrible. And then she got into an accident one day while high with Zeke in the car. And we don't know how bad it was. And I think in the audio, it wasn't as, not that it was implied that it was not as bad as it was, but it was like, I think we find out, like, we talked about in the server, like, how bad was it? Like, do you find out something more about Zeke through this? Right? Because, okay, that's a lot, but whatever. There was an accident. Because I don't want to go into, like, all of the, like, stuff about Zeke's abilities and all that yet.
Yeah.
Because we're not, like, up to this point, he is a human.
As a normal
Sort of.
dude.
He's just a normal guy. And so Greg says, like, oh, at that point I knew, like, she just couldn't be around anymore. And so as soon as she signed the divorce papers, she left. And also Zeke does say, oh, she walked out on my dad and I. She thought, he was a bad guy and she couldn't take it anymore, and she didn't think I was worth bringing along, which also really plays into his whole I'm not worthy thing, which is just like, terrible. I hate it so much. I hate it for him.
It's just all around bad. Like,
obviously, I don't hate him.
Why does he have to go through all this?
Yeah, it's such a terrible situation.
Mm-hmm.
Just a kid. It's terrible. But, Greg is like, so she just left and she never came back. And so now Zeke thinks I'm bad. I just have to maintain this facade of, like, I'm, a wash up. I'm, drunk all the time. And so that, so he can maintain this memory of a good memory was, of one parent. So, which I was like, when I first heard it, I was like, this is, I don't understand the logic in this, but, like, okay. Like, oh yeah,
Like, clearly he, like, spiraled into this, like, probably, I mean, he clearly loved Zeke's mother, but, he couldn't put his family, his son, at risk anymore. And, of course, that's gotta take a toll on him, leading to alcohol and all that stuff.
The whole, like, maintaining,
So,
I'm gonna pretend to continue to be a bad person so that my son, I was like, you could just be better after the wife leaves, and, use that as a moment of, like, oh yeah, I really have to step up and be a better person. But, like, okay. I think but it does show, I think, the point of that, and that was something I realized later. That was, like, one of my initial reactions. You realize later, like, Greg truly does care about his son, and he's like, I might not be able to provide the best for him, or, but I am not the best, but I like to think, that, having, hot stuff in his life, and they're like, you have done that, you're the one good thing he has going for him. And, I don't know if he says thank you, but, he acknowledges that, and he's appreciative of that. So that was a really long tangent.
It's all good. I mean, that was a long bit, that whole thing, it's a lot to process.
Hot Stuff's just sitting there like, I didn't sign up for this today.
It's like, God, therapist to another,
For
father who
real. I just would love a therapist, either a listener or just character in the center.
Oh gosh, that would be a lot.
I literally made well, this is like very much off topic. I made one for Rex, and they
Mhm.
were located in Westhaven. And I was like, might as well just for everybody at this point, because everybody needs one.
Everybody, group therapy.
Just we all need a session. Um,
Yeah.
but so then at some point Z comes home because he has to come home to move the story along.
Mhm.
Great words. Um, so then Greg goes back to pretending to be this gruff guy, and
Mhm.
it's like, okay, whatever, let's go, hot stuff, whatever. And they meet up with Cam. They go to the lake. They swim around. They have fun. It's a great Mulan reference.
Oh, yeah.
I love it so much, and I think there are other ones before that, but I can't think of them.
Yeah.
Um, but so great reference, and then oh, forgot to say this before.
Mhm.
When they're about to leave the school, Jason and Noah have a bit of an aside where Jason's like, "Oh, did you hear that? They're going someplace where they're by themselves or whatever."
Yeah.
And Noah's like, and they make this they do this kind of revenge plot of like, "Oh, we're gonna get payback for what happened on prom."
Mhm.
And so, cut back to the lake. They have fun at the lake. They talk. Sorry. Cam has a great line about being a mongoose. Can't say it,
Yes.
but so great.
He says, I'm like a mongoose. I might be small, but I'll fuck you up."
So iconic.
Yeah.
I am a mongoose. And then something happens. They decide to go home. They have a conversation. It's a really nice, tender moment right between it sounds just like the two of them, but it's the three of them, right? This new kind of friend group. And then they go back to the car. I guess they go back, to the mainland. And they see oh, their clothes are missing. And Zeke's like, oh, or I think Cam or someone says, why don't we check inside the car? And it turns out the car is completely trashed. Someone scratched up. They say Cam says keyed the car, but the way it's described after, it's like someone took claws and just scraped it all across the car. They completely tore it up. And their clothes are gone. They're wet, cold. And then they're like, oh, let's try and can we, get home? Does the car even start? The car doesn't start. So they're kind of stranded in this area in the forest. That's pretty, I don't want to say deep in, but it's secluded. Not a lot of people know about this. So, if they didn't have their phones, thankfully they do have their phones. But I think Cam's able to call his brother, Shane, who we meet for the first time. And I completely forgot we met him too.
It's such a small little bit,
It really is. It makes just oh hey, and it just kind of erased itself from my memory. But you meet Shane for the first time. It's very no real lore there. But you find out, you just hear one of his brothers.
Yeah.
And so they're like, who could have done this? And Zeke's like, who do you think could have done this? Obviously it's Zeke. It's Zeke. Zeke did this to himself. It's obviously Jason Noah. And what are we gonna do to get back to him? Get back at them. And I think that it kind of leaves off there, oh, we're gonna come up with a revenge plan.
Yeah.
And
then part 2 is where they kind of really delve into what they're actually gonna do. What's their plan. So part 2, the three meet up after class. Cam was a bit late from visiting their friend who got hurt during the training of war
friend
games.
zoning. his listener. Which is
Yeah.
terrible because he had a confession video too.
Yeah. Whether
It's
that's
terrible.
truly connected, we don't really know, but still, shame. They discuss the war games a bit, how the training is intense, but Cam is really used to it because it's what his father put him through, and Cam
Small but
talks about it
strong.
like it's nothing.
He is small but strong.
Small but strong. And then, they talk a little bit more about the war games, talking about how, like, other characters involved, like Corvin might be the team captain for the Takers, but Cam gets this kind of, like, weird energy from Corvin, like, he's, like, always looking at me, and it's like someone watching me from somewhere else, and,
Yeah. I wonder why.
Zeke Zeke, brushes it off like, it's nothing, you're just overthinking it. He's a cool dude, whatever.
And it's not like you have, your bully as the
Mhm.
leader of your group. Because
Yeah.
you find out Jace and Zeke are on the same team. And also
Yep.
Noah. It's so great.
Good old Hunter's team.
Literally everyone except Corey, I think, is a quote unquote bad guy.
Yeah,
I can't
pretty
say
much.
they're pretty much bad guys. It's just like it's interesting.
hmm
Um
On a more positive note, Judah DeVoe, the swim team, basically superstar, probably is going to be the team captain for the Givers, which is what Cam is, planning to get in for.
mhm.
A few other characters mentioned. We get the first mention, I believe, of Melody Karamiya, the purple-haired girl with the guitar case.
All you get about her is just purple hair girl.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of these.
Yeah, it's just the purple-haired girl.
She has a name, you
She
guys.
has a name, okay? And Cam of all people, well, Cam at least mentions like, oh yeah, that's Melody, and she's in my music club, where you learn Cam is in the music club, which is
We never actually find out what he does in the music club.
I'm just saying, Siren, if you happen to listen to this, where's Cam singing? I think we think we deserve
Does he
it.
sing? Does he play? What does he do? Tell us.
Just give us a little taste of that.
We hear Zeke sing. We need to hear Cam.
Yeah.
It's not the same person.
It's not the same.
It just feels different, okay?
Mhm. Everybody sing. No. But yeah, so then after, they talk about that, Zeke has to rush off to his class early because Mr. Glass, his professor, wants to talk about the student that had went missing during the finals or before the finals, which is a good little tie-in to Duke's
Another
listener.
storyline.
Yeah.
Yes. Which I feel so bad too, because it's like they're friends with Keon, right?
Mhm.
You would think Keon would be, which I was like, it's interesting because I would say spoilers, but Keon is the principal's son.
Mhm.
A lot of people in the server, if you listen to the videos in order, in like release order, you hear tidbits at the end of some of these of a Dr. Glass talking to a Dr. Felt. And you find out, you assume that Dr. Felt is the head of, this group called the Circle. And you don't really, I don't know how to just say this. For some reason, like Hill and Felt, I forget how, but we basically came to the conclusion that they are the same person. That was not
Mhm.
confirmed, but we were like, it's basically confirmed.
The gremlin confirmed.
It's like, yeah, it's literally everything except in an audio has it been like straight up just said.
Yeah.
But you're like, if he's his son and he's, part of this organization, because he clearly does have, you find out later that he does clearly know stuff. And also you know this beforehand because he wears a lot of I don't know if Simon released it, but he wears a lot of rings and like the art that he did like a art piece of a file on Keon.
Yeah.
So the principal's son wears a lot of silver jewelry It was really interesting. They're like, oh, why would he wear silver jewelry in a school that has people like Jace, has, you know, I can't say Ronnie Foss, but no one knows until no one truly knows who Ronnie is until like Adron's second audio. So, also for those context, Adron is a vampire. I don't think I'm saying his name right. But
Adron?
Adron?
Oh god.
It's not Adri. It's not everyone. Like I like autocorrect like to change it. Adron? I forget how to say. I haven't listened to that in a hot minute. Oh gosh, really embarrassing myself. I'm so sorry. Sorry, Siren.
This is why we are lore gremlins and not lore keepers or, you know, anything
we
fancy.
We campaigned to change the name because
we demoted ourselves.
We really did. We really did. Because I mean, lore keeper is just so formal, and I'm not organized enough. It's like
we're a hot mess, and we accept that.
For real, the more members we got, the more chaotic and hot mess. I mean, even with just like when it was like what 3 people that were talking regularly in there, it was still pretty much a hot mess. But it's
okay. So, looping back to part 2, the plot. So we get that little bit of Mr. Glass, and later they all meet up at Cam's place to finally talk about the revenge plan. You know. And it's Cam who comes up with the plan to sneak into the faculty office at night and get Jace's student files and expose him online with document proof of what he has done.
Which is like very vengeful for him.
Yeah, you know, and clearly like Jace has done a lot of things. There should be a lot of files about like all the reports of like incidents that he was involved in, but he never gets in trouble. Funny enough.
Like for like people see him often enough. Like how do they not like know? But like it's like no, he's good. Also, this is them not knowing like you know the bigger picture. So they think, oh, it's just gonna probably just mess up his like you know social life and his
and expose him. And the school will have to do something if it's exposed online, right? You know, that's the thinking behind it.
Yeah.
So then with that plan, Zeke is like, okay, well, we have a classroom that we can get into that has a faulty lock, you know, hint, hint at Zeke part 1 when they got locked into the room. And that's their way of getting in and out of the school. And then, but the one thing they need is a faculty room key. And who can they get that from? Keon, which is revealed in this episode to be the headmaster's son.
Zeke's boy. No, that's not really. But they're like friends from that somehow. I have a weird
acquaintance. It's a weird time. Anything with Keon is quite a weird dynamic. It doesn't seem like anybody really is his friend, but nobody's really enemies with him either.
He keeps everyone at arm's length, which is very good because you're close enough that you get information, but also you're not getting too involved. You know, you're not like emotionally invested, emotionally compromised. Which is very smart as Dr. Feld's son. Big brain boy. Sorry. Keon, the big brain boy.
So that ends, you know, they come up with their plan, and thus we get part 3, which kind of ties into what just happened in the last episode, where Zeke and Hot Stuff go up to Keon and ask for the faculty key. Of course, Keon's like, so, why you doing this, huh? I'd like to know why you need the faculty key. And then, you know, they explain that Jace is a douche and he keyed his car and, you know, tortured Cam, and basically they want to get him. The only people who ever called Jace out, and I think this is important, were Coach Abe Gregor, Cam's father, and a Miss Stone. Yeah. First time we ever hear that name.
It's Stone. You find out a Dr. Quartz. I think Greg mentions at some point. I'm like, does no one else finds it weird that like they're all like you have glass, stone, quartz, like and there are other members of the inner circle, I'm sure, working in the school.
But like, isn't it odd that they all have these like, you know,
these weird object names, like, and not just like stone maybe is kind of common, but quartz? No one's name is quartz or glass.
Felt. I've never met
Felt.
anybody with the last name Felt.
I really do think he really got the short end of the stick with that. That's not an intimidating villain name.
I just think of a really soft piece of fabric,
Exactly. I'm like, oh, it's so nice, Can build and make arts and crafts with it. And it's like, I'm scary.
Yeah. So we get those names. So then after hearing the plan that Zeke, Hot Stuff, and Cam have, he's like, Keon's like, okay, I'll give you the key.
He's so annoying with it too.
I'll give you the key under one condition though, and that condition being he needs documents of Jace's second file, which are located in a black filing cabinet with a red circular symbol. Seems a bit odd, but we agree. We're like, okay, you want that file? Cool, we'll get that for you while we get the other one. And then he also gives the tip that if they want to get in, go to the chem lab because the cameras and locks on the windows are broken in there. Which is real interesting. Keon knowing literally everything that's going on.
I was gonna say, this is a weird thing to bring. I just thought of this too. First thing, Jace is not Jace. Keon. My goodness. Keon is very funny. He's like, you know what? Yeah, things need to be brought to life. People need to be aware. And I'm like, oh, you're sly thing. Because he's like, oh, no. People actually really need to know about what actually is going on here, right? Or people are blind, he says, right? And that's the whole thing, right? With the circle, right? They have an eye as their symbol, as you see on like one of the, because it's like, we see everything, we know everything.
We see everything. We're looking to the future if they want to be all optimistic and stuff.
But like it's very like his wording is very interesting. And I was wondering now you just said like the whole what cameras and stuff. I don't remember this very well. But for the I was about to say Tim, for the Yandere scientist, his lab, did his have cameras and stuff?
I don't think so. I need to rewatch that one. I haven't listened to that one in quite some time.
Good. Like also I'm like I know he's recent enough that he was able to, do what he did with certain characters. Avoid spoiler there.
Hint hint. Poke poke.
I'll go, look through audios for that. But I don't know if he was we did like I think rule out the possibility of him like being a member of the faculty. Yeah. But could he have like I don't know if that like he was able to use that lab or like I don't know.
It's all like kind of like gray. It's like what could this connection be?
Yeah.
So then they finally get the key from Keon. Haha. I'm sorry, that's so bad. I'm gonna leave that in.
Please do.
So they meet up with Cam later in the day. They wait before heading into the chem lab because Zeke doesn't want to bump into the new chem professor, aka his dad, Greg Graves. Yay, he got a job.
Yes, Greg. Turning his life around.
Yeah.
Oh wait, does Greg's first audio happen before or after this?
Oh gosh.
I think it's before.
It might be before. We're jumping hoops here.
It's fine. We can go back.
We can go back to Greg after going through the Westhaven arc and tie it in. Okay, so yes. So they wait before heading into the chem lab because Zeke doesn't want to bump into Greg. Once nighttime falls, the coast is clear. They go in and go to the file room. Zeke first goes to get that black file. The file for Keon in the black cabinet with the red circle. While Cam stands watch and Hot Stuff is presumably there helping, I guess.
Just vibing, honestly, at this point.
So Zeke makes note of the fact that Jace's file within the black cabinet is huge. before opening it to see some really odd things. He opens it, and what does he find? He says the file contains weird forms and his faction test, along with some blurry photos. Cam comes over, he wants to check out. He's like, "What do you mean?" They check out the file, and it doesn't really look like a normal school file. It has his class schedule, but also his daily routine, timestamps, and locations, like he's being tracked.
They're straight up stalking these people.
Yeah, which is odd for just a school to have. Cam starts to read the file aloud, and then this is what it says. Jace Belladonna was born into a family closely related to ones that carry the genes tested positive for lycanthropy. Lycanthropy? Oh god, now I can't say the word. Lycanthropy.
I think Siren says lycanthropy?
Lycanthropy.
Oh my
Oh
gosh.
god. Lycanthropy, there we go.
The emphasis.
Lycanthropy. Signed, Dr. Glass, head of requisitions and experimentation. This is the first look into, things are not normal. This is like the first clear sign we get. Also, we get the designation for what Dr. Glass is in this. Head of requisitions and experimentation.
Which makes a lot of sense with, like, all the tidbits you get before.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're like, oh, he's just throwing things in the air. Or not throwing things in the air, but, you know, just throwing stuff out there for them to do. It's like, no, he actually, like, this is what he does.
Mm-hmm. So then, after reading that, you know, they take a look at those blurry pictures. Zeke is like, is that, like, a bear? And then Cam is like, no, wait, I think that's actually a photo of Jace as, you know, a lycanthrope, a werewolf. After that, Zeke is like, all right, I think we should go. Cam says, nope, I gotta look at my file. Which, if I was Cam, I'd be doing the same thing, honestly.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe, like, Hot Stuff isn't like, oh my gosh, do they have something on me? Yo.
Exactly. I'd be like, what about me? Is
Am
there
I
something
special?
I don't know about myself? Am I special? So then he reads through his file. Cameron Gregor, the son of Abraham Gregor, Abe, the coach, thus assumed the grandson of 06 Prime. Abnormality, divine blood. Cameron Gregor carries a fourth of the genes passed from his grandfather, 06 Prime, or most commonly known as Nyx. This accounts for his pink hair as a result of the genetic highlighting, any trace of 06 Prime blood, and any descendants such as his father and his brother. Signed, Dr. Felt, head examiner and supervisor of the Circle. Dun dun dun.
That's where, like, you really get, like, if you didn't, you know, like what we said, right? If you didn't pick up on, like, the really small bit with Cam in his second episode, and also if you know, if you're like, it's hard for people aren't listening to these like on repeat all the time, so you're gonna forget like details. Like I completely forgot Jace. There's like Shane existed, but you know, you forget like, oh yeah, that moment happened with him where it was a little weird, but then and it was so quick. But this is like the real confirmation, like, oh yeah, no, he's what a
not normal
god, not a god,
he is a
but like
quarter
basically he's a quarter. I think Siren like compared them to angels.
Angels, yeah.
He's like a quarter angel. And you're like, oh, cool,
yeah.
Explains a lot.
After that, they're like, okay, Cam, you know, keeps his file with him, and they rush home, and they're very panicked.
I'd be too, dang.
Because they just realized that their school is not just a school, it is way more.
I think this is also just me, like, commenting as a gremlin. Like, we found out a lot, I think, in the server, just, like, doing a lot of, like, stuff on our own, talking to Siren, getting questions answered. And like this is like where it's all kind of laid out, which it makes sense because it was the finale, I think, right? Or it's
like second to last, you know,
second to
just
last,
before the finale.
This was like the climax, and it's like all this stuff is being revealed. Now the characters are finally kind of, you know, oh gosh, I can't talk. veil is kind of, pulled back, the curtain's pulled back.
Mhm.
And they find out, their worlds are literally like flipped upside down.
Yeah.
Like,
There's like so much more. You thought the world was just, plain old humans and just normal stuff. Nope.
you thought
It
life was
really
kind of
isn't.
bad already. It's about to get a whole lot worse.
Cut to Westhaven Part 4, Arc 1 finale. Oh god. Okay,
Gosh.
so we learned a lot in that last episode, but Part 4 takes it even further. So Zeke, Cam, Hot Stuff, they all get back to Cam's house. Nobody's home. They lock the doors. Zeke is trying to comprehend what the heck they just figured out, why the school has this black file cabinet with a red circle on it. And then he makes the connection that maybe it's not normal. Maybe each of those files is correlating to like an abnormality like Jace's file. So, which this theory makes sense relating to how, Jace was able to wreck Zeke's car, Cam's pink hair, and Zeke's ... We don't
Oh,
get
that was
any
so
answers with that.
annoying.
Yep.
Oh,
He's like, he really, he has a moment where he's like, and mine, but then it cuts. We don't know what's up with
bro,
Zeke
you literally found out your
within audio.
like quarter angel. You can reveal a little about yourself, but all right.
Yeah. So in conclusion, Westhaven, not a normal school. They're watching everybody's moves and
And they
know
choose the
more
students.
about them, yeah, than they know about themselves.
And they're like, oh, we're not just we get scholarships. It's not just a random thing of luck. It's we were all chosen because of because of these things.
Yeah.
Because they want to know about and for why, for why, and for what for what reason, they don't know yet. But they're studying us.
Yeah. Studying us for some reason, and it's really not cool. People watching your every move.
Rockwell starts playing in the background.
But so they're trying to unpack everything that happened. Cam reveals that he actually took his file and he has it with him, and he's like, I want to expose this. We got to let people know.
I gotta talk to my dad.
Got to talk to my dad about this, like, about my grandfather who I never get to see.
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah, all that
That'll
stuff.
be a
But
fun conversation.
then they get interrupted when Zeke notices a sound. Cam claims that his parents are out for an anniversary, Logan's in Sapphire City for work, and Shane is away at boot camp, so why is there a car driving into the driveway?
Cam didn't hear it, but Zeke did.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, how did you hear? I think that's also just kind of little tidbits into Zeke's kind of ability that he hinted at before, right?
Yeah.
It's a bit more he lets on more than these little things that aren't revealed yet, but
Like
he's
this
also not very
really
normal.
strong human guy who really heard this thing, is
It's a
Zeke so
special boy.
normal? Yeah.
Is he?
Mm.
Yeah.
um So then, of course, after they hide away, the intruder comes in, and when the intruder, comes in, the intruder has a distorted voice, asking for the file back. He's like, I'll leave you guys alone, just give me the file back. Cam leaves the file on the table or wherever, and the three rush out. Zeke gets nicked by the intruder as they escape, but claims that he's all good.
Let's just keep going.
The circle operative receives the file and before leaving says, "Good luck, abnormals."
Also implies that Zeke is also not. I should say not okay. Zeke is not regular, and I guess also Hot Stuff because,
Hot Stuff
or I guess they could just
potentially
be
might be abnormal.
potentially,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Um.
you won't know.
Yeah. So they get out. Cam is like worried about Zeke, but Zeke's like, "Look, I'm fine. See, no blood, no wound. I'm good." Which is really weird because we heard him get
You literally
nicked.
hear this man get stabbed.
We heard Zeke go like, "Ah," We were all worried, and he's like, "Nah, I'm good."
You don't see a tear in the fabric, nothing, my guy.
Like, yeah,
Nah.
I don't know.
It's fine.
It's all good. No worries. Um, so then Cam is like, I need to speak to my parents about this. And they're
What
like,
a great
okay,
thing to come back.
cool.
What a great thing. Like, you're on your anniversary dinner, come back, and your
Yeah.
kid's like, "Hey, I'm not normal. Also, someone
I'm
tried
not
to attack
normal.
us.
Someone, broke into our house, stabbed my friend here.
We need
Can we
answers.
talk about this? Yeah.
Tell me." And also, Zeke gets a message from Keon, like
Mm-hmm.
uncannily, like right after it all happens, saying to
Yeah.
meet with him the next morning at school, like
Yeah.
first thing. He's like, he knew about this. And we're like, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
duh.
He knew something was gonna happen. Clearly.
Clearly.
And so that's where it kind of ends for them. But then at the end of the audio, we get to meet this operative, this operator. Um, you know, their voice changes from this kind of distorted voice to a feminine voice who is answering the phone. And when they, they're on the phone, they're saying, "Yeah, I got the file." And on the other side of the phone, it's felt. Or
It's
no, it's
glass.
glass. It's glass. And then this operator says, or the operator, as they call themselves, says, "It's high time that you realize, Dr. Glass, that when I'm under the orders of Felt, I am not your daughter. I am a member of the Circle, so don't
So,
call me Blair. You
oh
can
my
call me the
god.
operator."
It's like, the boldness these kids have with their
Yeah.
parents. Like, I could
Like,
never.
so then that's where we get to learn that Blair Collins, a member of the Seekers team, is not only Dr. Glass's daughter, but also a Circle member, the operator.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot. You find out a lot in those
Yeah.
2 episodes.
Those last two
Like,
episodes are really like the hard
the
hitter
roller
of like,
coaster.
okay, things are not normal within Westhaven,
Mhm.
specifically the academy. And, there's way more. And there's like the secret organization that's
Mhm.
like
There's a lot
watching
more going
everybody.
on
Mm-hmm.
than, not just what meets the eye, but, like, even, like, the students and also a lot of the teachers, because as we're gonna talk about soon, Greg, when he first kinda joins the faculty and all of that, he's like he brings up a lot of, like, "Oh, this is weird," but, like, he doesn't know, and he's just like he brushes it off, kind of.
Yeah.
But,
Okay.
I guess kinda segue into that,
Yeah.
into
Time to
Greg
get
now.
into Greg Graves and his whole thing.
Oh gosh. Okay. Um, do I remember? I remember. It's fine. Um, so for some reason, I think the art teacher comes into, or someone enters like Greg's classroom, and or like he goes on the hallway or something like that, and he meets this art teacher, and they kind of make small talk, and you find out Greg's like he's actually trained. He went to school, and
He's
he's
got
like
a
a
degree.
proper. He is a proper chemist. He knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. But then some stuff happened in his personal life. He married. I don't say the wrong person, but he married someone, and it did not go well. And
Hmm.
he's now trying to turn his life back around.
Yeah. Better
And
himself for,
yeah,
for Zeke.
yes, we love that. Um, and he at some point I think brings up like this school is like really weird. Like
Hmm.
I've never met the principal, and he's my boss. Yeah, all
Yeah.
I get is like it's either like correspondence either through letters or like voice messages, and
Hmm.
like he's like that's kind of weird. And then like
Yeah.
every time I bring it up to the fact, to Glass, to Professor Glass, he just kind of glares at me like I don't know what I'm talking about, or like
Hmm.
like gives me dirty looks. He's like I don't know what that's
Yeah.
about, but like you can tell like you find out I guess from that like not everyone on the faculty knows
Mm.
what actually is going on. They're just kind of like the students, and that makes you wonder like oh why some of them obviously it's like you need like if you're going to run a school you need like an English teacher and all of that,
Yeah.
but like if you have you know why did you pick like Zeke's dad, of all people,
Mhm. Of
right?
all people.
There are so many other chemistry people, I'm sure. Chemistry's oh gosh, chemistry. Um,
It's a pain, but,
it's a
some people
yeah,
know it.
some people do. Incredible. But like, why did you pick him? Oh, it's also like, the whole thing. I think we kind of looked at it that way because, the whole situation with Abe and Cam, right? That's another
Mhm.
father-son kind of situation in the school. Also,
Yeah.
Professor Hill, Principal Hill, Keon, Glass, his daughter. You know,
Yeah.
how many of these, how much is how words? How many, parents and children, are actually, is it like kind of contain
Involved.
it? Yeah, how many are involved? Are you trying to contain them all? Is there a reason? Because before that, Greg wasn't really, in the picture in terms of like the school.
Yeah.
So like, why now? Like, we get, he's trying to turn his life around, but you couldn't
Also,
have done something earlier.
it's really interesting how, like, in that episode, he's like, "Oh yeah, I got the job because the last guy moved away suddenly, and also the art teacher is a new hire too." So
Mhm.
like, oh, suddenly
It's a
there's
new wave of people. Yeah, like
Mhm.
if you're in this like, this kind of a school and that's very hush hush, you'd imagine they're trying to limit the coming and going of people.
Yeah.
So what
So you
happens to the
you kind
last
of
guy?
wonder what happened to those people? Hmm.
Were they in the know? And if they were, what happened to them?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, Greg brings up a lot of points about, how weird the school is. I think most of it's like small talk
Mhm.
with him and the art teacher. And it's
Yeah.
cute little banter. And then his listener actually asks him out. And he's very surprised.
Yeah, for
Like, what?
drinks. He's like, "Me? Oh, okay."
You got the wrong person. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's really cute and really nice. And then, but also like, oh, you find out, from another kind of side that the school is very, you know, weird.
Yeah. Like, even from like, clearly from Greg and this art teacher, there are some teachers or faculty that are not in the know of what's happening, you know, with the whole circle connection,
Mhm.
which
So
is
like, how do you handle that?
interesting.
How do you
Yeah.
keep it a secret? It's also, I
Mhm.
guess we got a little bit of that in Darlin's storyline, or I guess
Yeah.
I should say Duke's, because you have the teacher. I know a lot of people are going to think, oh, it's actually. I think a lot of us mix this up too. The teacher that gives the book to Darlin
Yeah.
is not at all affiliated with the Circle. That's not Dr. Glass. That is actually Siren's brother who voiced him. So, like, they were saying, right? Oh, we didn't get our hands on it in time, and I think that
Yeah.
was like one thing we kept on being like, oh, how did it? If they're all in the school together, right? And the Circle's running the school, how do they not know? Or
Mhm.
how are they not, communicating about, oh, I have the book here, and it's like, no, so people genuinely don't know. They got a good job at a rich private school,
Yeah.
and they're just handing out books or doing
Mhm.
whatever. They don't realize that hey, some of these actions have some very severe consequences.
Yeah.
Um, because they're not in the know. Um,
Mhm.
then that goes into episode 2,
Yeah.
which you want to go into.
Yeah, sure. So in part 2, they're getting drinks. They go out having a good time, and Greg really sits down and starts talking about, his situation, how he kind of blames himself for what happened to his ex-wife, Irene. Um and how he basically made himself out to be a bad guy, but he needs to stop that and he needs to better himself for his son.
Mhm.
So,
And can't blame himself for things that he tried to help with, and some
mhm.
people can't.
So at the bar, some light conversation, Greg asks the listener about themselves. Listener happens to be from Sapphire City, recently moved, to West Haven. And Greg actually grew up in Sapphire City, then moved to Westhaven as a kid, which is a fun little thing to know.
Mhm.
Then, there's a funny moment where they're like, "Oh, it's Saturday, couples get a discount." So they fake and they're like, "Yeah, we're totally a couple."
Which
And
the
which
bartender is
is
very funny. He thinks he's very clever.
mhm. And the bartender tops off the drinks with a blue flower. Who could this bartender be?
Your favorite person.
Yes, my personal favorite person. Um, so, they have their drinks. Greg still wears the ring to remind himself to learn about a person before trusting them completely with his heart, because with his ex-wife Irene, he, really moved into that quick. They were young, they were stupid, they were in love, the whole
You were
spiel.
very dumb.
Dumb, young, and in love. um he then, kind of he gets a little flirty. He calls the listener pretty, and says, like, he'd actually like to get to know the listener, which is really big steps for Greg, honestly.
Yes, Greg. Love to see it.
Yeah. So he asked, the listener to go watch a movie back at his place. And he just really opens up. And then at the end of that episode, we get the cheeky man himself, the architect, sneaking in and saying
Mm.
how he, had a good time being a bartender.
You listen to it, you hear some really interesting conversations. My goodness.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have we've joked about, like, he's really just, like, doing research for his fan fiction because he
Yep. Yep.
ships all of
He
these
ships
people,
everybody.
everybody. He needs to see it through. They
Yes.
have to happen.
He's got to write his books.
His AO3 account is thriving.
hmm And then, like, that's funny because this is the second time he's had involvement with, like, Westhaven people
With
because, like,
the graves.
yeah, we talked about that. We talked earlier
Mhm,
about how, like, oh yeah, how Zeke had that weird flower from a florist. Like, oh,
mhm.
that florist. Who else could it have been other than the wonderful architect?
Who likes to meddle with people. Just
Yeah.
help people out. Just, helps create the situation over here and over
hmm
there. That's interesting. He has focused on specifically the graves.
Yeah.
He wants them to have better lives
Yeah.
and good partners as they deserve.
hmm
He's doing what the
Which
fandom cannot.
Which this is kind of slightly off topic, but I'll just talk about it a little bit. This kind of gets me thinking about, like, okay, so what was Architect, like before his whole classroom situation?
Yes.
Could he have had a similar life story to the Graves? I don't
We
know.
really need to just do a whole episode on him.
It's gonna be the longest episode. No, Rex's episode will be the longest
Yes, it will.
episode.
Yes, it really, really will. I will make sure of it. We're gonna dedicate, like, 2 hours to it. No. Um, but yeah, it's interesting that the people is there a reason why he targets or not, I don't wanna say target because that's negative, but why he selects certain people to, kind of
Mhm.
insert himself into. Not people, but, situations.
So then we get to part 3. You wanna go ahead and get into that?
Part 3 is just mostly the confession.
Yeah, pretty
I think so,
much.
yeah. So, it's really cute. He's a moment. He's like, I'm struggling with opening up but, he says and I think it's really good. I think it's a really good detail that Siren did. I think with Greg especially, compared to other characters who have had, troubling pasts, he said, "I care a lot for you." He doesn't say, "I love you" yet, and it's
Mhm.
a big moment, right, for him because you
Yeah.
have characters who have, like, I said, "I love you" really quickly. You're like, "Oh," you know, that's, and you appreciate it, but, like, the fact that, Greg is like, "I'm not ready there." He's taking his time. He wants this to be something, not rushed
Yeah, he's
into.
not gonna
He
just
wants it to
rush
last.
into this. He's
Yeah.
gonna see it through properly.
Yeah, and I think it's really nice. So
Yeah.
great. And
It's so
then
so wholesome.
It really is. That episode is, I think, mostly just, like, fluff. But, like,
Yeah,
we
just
needed
fluff.
that.
Except at the end, we do get the little kind of end tidbit with, like, how we talked about how occasionally we get Glass coming in.
Oh, yeah. Ugh,
Um,
class.
and so at the end of that, Glass is basically saying there's been a breach at the academy. 3 of the students have discovered, their cover. And they took a file, and they're gonna send an operative who we talked about earlier was Blair to retrieve that file.
Mhm. Also, that episode, we should say, um, comes before episode 4
Mhm.
of the
Yeah.
Westhaven arc. So that's why. It leads to, oh, this is gonna happen with
Yeah.
Blair and all that. And then 4th episode Greg's 4th episode is
Oh
an
god.
interesting one. Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
I did not expect oh my gosh, I was not expecting
This
it.
turn of events, really.
I was like, "Can't you give the man a break?" For real.
They can't.
No. So Greg, we come into like his classroom, I think, and Greg is treating himself treating a wound, and he basically tells us, "Oh, 2 kids got into a fight. It was Corbin and Jace, and I tried to break it up, and one of them turned around and bit me." And I was like,
Bit is
"What the heck?"
who
I was like, "What school are you
what
going
kind
to?
of
What
kids
kind
are
of kids are
biting
you
each
around?
other?
You're getting
Yeah.
bitten, straight up getting bitten." And so he's like, I didn't think it was that deep until, what I think Professor Quartz
I
points it
think it
out
was
to
just
him.
Dr. Quartz,
Or Dr.
yeah.
Quartz? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, pointed out, oh, it's actually, deeper than he
He
actually,
was like, "Hey, you kinda got some blood there." And he's
yeah,
like,
you're
"Oh,
kind of,
okay, I'll take care of it."
dang. And so I think then it just kind of gets patched up. You found out that Arthur Tess actually told, the art teacher
Mhm.
about um
Greg.
Greg. And we can go into
Mhm.
Arthur a bit later, or I guess at
Yeah.
another time.
Another
Um,
time.
and you just kind of like, I don't remember much after that. Like it's just kind of talking and like it's a sweet moment, and then you find out later on, or Greg says, "I've dealt with a lot worse. I'll be fine." And you're like, "Will you
Mhm.
though?" Because I think a lot of us at the time we were like, if it's between Jace and Corbin, you're like, "Oh, you know what Jace is at this point."
And you know what a bite could do
Yeah, you know what a bite
from
can do.
these.
Yeah. So you're like, either you're gonna die or something else is gonna happen.
Mhm.
And then you find out at the end of the video, Greg is transforming. He is,
Yeah.
officially he is, uh, contracted lycanthropy.
Yeah.
Contracted because it is a disease. Oh my gosh,
It is. Yeah.
it technically is. I mean, and he says, like the last thing he says, like I feel hungry. You're like, that's
Hungry.
ominous
Yeah.
because when you from the conversations from the audios of Grayson, yeah,
Mhm.
he's like he woke up literally like in the middle of the woods, butt naked, covered in blood.
Yep.
And he's like, I hope it was animal blood. I
Yeah.
don't remember what happened. So you're like, oh, what does this mean for Grayson? Not Grayson,
Mhm.
Greg.
Right. So many
He's in
G's.
so many. Um, like, is he? Because he's also, does he go to school? Because I think he went home. Does this happen like when? Because he at that point, I
He
think
said that he
it was
needed
during
to
his
go
break. Yeah,
home to
he
get
went home during
changed.
in the middle of the day. So is this
Yeah.
when this happened? I don't know if we were like, oh, that's when this is happening. And
It's
like,
hard
does he
to
just not show
tell.
back? Does he just not show up to school again?
Yeah.
Just disappears and goes on a rampage. Supposedly, we have no clue what happens because I mean
It's all
that's
very
the most recent.
ominous.
Yeah, but like you're very afraid. You're like, what does this mean? Not just for I guess him, and like
Mhm.
the next however many hours that he's going to be in this kind of frenzy. But
Yeah.
he's just on this kind of road to recover, not recovery, but like like bringing his life around. He's met this
And then
person that
he
means a
gets
lot to
he gets
him.
hit with this.
Yeah, he's trying to build a relationship with his son. Though we haven't really seen a lot of that, but I'm hoping that there's going to be something.
Yeah.
Um, you know, all of this is happening. All things are finally looking up for him, and then this happens, and
And
he
some
has
stupid kid has to bite him.
it's like all these rich private school kids biting people. What is this?
Yeah.
And you're just like, what does this mean? You know, not just for him, because like at this point, he's the one that like, oh, the school is being really weird. Now he's
Mhm.
gonna know why. He's been like thrust into this world. He didn't ask
Mhm.
for it, you know, like he's just now he's gonna have to find out everything on his own. How is he gonna like, is he gonna go to the school and be like, is he gonna try and hide it from the school? Because he's like, oh,
Mhm.
they can't know that I am this. But turns out, you know, Jace is he gonna turn to Jace? What is you don't know what he's gonna do. There's
Yeah.
it was it was the best. I don't want to say, I was going to say best and worst cliffhanger. It's the best because it's like, oh my gosh, this is a great plot point. But
Mhm.
it's like the worst because you're like, no, not Greg.
'Cause you know after this it's just gonna be a hot mess.
For real. Oh my gosh. Is he
Yeah.
gonna like disappear? And then Zeke's like, huh, he left too.
Yeah. Oh
No.
god.
Oh no.
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 Okay. So,
No.
okay, now that we've kind of gone through the episodes, and since we ended with that one, I want to go into theory time essentially and talk about one of my theories involving Greg. So, in the description below, Greg part 4, Siren, ominously says new series old character question mark.
Hmm.
So, that tied into what happened to Greg. So, based on what Grayson said in his series, Grayson the werewolf, the reason that they have packs and why they're important is because they kind of keep each other in check, specifically when talking about hunger and animalistic urges. So since Greg is essentially turning, he's gonna have that issue. And with the description of new series old character, it got me thinking, could Grayson potentially like come back and be a source of help for Greg in, his newfound lycanthropy?
Yes. Oh, I really hope so. Yeah, because we were, I think also for like, I really hope he does because I think also
Hmm.
at that point, right, we were talking like we didn't Greg not Greg Grayson at that point after his whole series came kind of
Yeah.
to an end, his like little mini arc. It was just kind of there, and you're like, you know, he's connected to Westhaven, you know, very directly to Westhaven.
Hmm.
But how is he going to get involved in that community? What's the kind of,
Yeah.
you know, what is it? Not merging, whatever. How is he going to finally get involved?
Yeah, that
And
little
this might
connecting
be the thing.
point.
Yeah. And so this might actually be the thing for that because, you know, Grayson, Grayson, Greg, Greg, you know, I don't think he's going to turn to Jace. I hope he doesn't turn to Jace.
No.
Oh gosh. You know, to, you know, find answers. Also, you know, hopefully Greg at some point, he maybe hopefully follows like some kind of path and ends up in the woods, like
Hmm.
hoping to get away from people as much as possible. Hopefully
Yeah.
somewhere in his subconscious he does that and they finally get to meet up because also Grayson at that point I think he's the only one left of his pack that he knows
Hmm.
of. So he's really alone. He's, you know, like he has the most experience, I think, outside of Jace, you
Especially
know,
he
on
has the
how to handle
experience
stuff.
turning because
Yeah.
Jace is actually just born as a
He was.
werewolf.
Yeah,
I
he has
think
the
so.
I can't remember if he was
Like,
born or if they were turned around the same. I forget what the whole
well,
thing is with that.
remember how in the file about Grayson it said it was in his like family
Mhm.
something, family tree.
Oh
I
yeah.
don't think that's what it
Yeah.
said. Um
Yeah, like his genes or something real closely
oh,
related
born
to
into
or
a family closely related to ones that
yeah.
carry that gene. So
Mhm.
that insinuates that, he's been like that since he was, born.
Yeah, which
But
is
Grayson was actually turned.
yeah. Jace also like he has the best control, I think. Or
Mhm.
he should, as you know, being a born werewolf, has like the
Yes.
best
Well,
control
he
in
has
terms of.
control of his
But
abilities,
he's also
not so much
insane.
control of his
He's
emotion.
insane. He's insane.
So
But you know, Grayson has experience. He has honestly, I don't know if he has leadership skills, but you know, he's a decent guy. You know, he cares.
yeah.
He knows. He understands pack dynamic and what pack's actually supposed to be for, unlike Jace.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think, and we were talking about like I think at one point like when all this stuff, you know, the whole Westhaven thing finally goes down, and Jace hopefully is taken out. You're gonna have like Jace at some point also says in, you know, videos leading up to this, leading up to Greg's, turns. You find out he goes to turn another student Peter Shaw, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
Um,
Peter Shaw.
yeah. So he's trying to create a pack of his own. So you're having people that are turned probably under, false pretenses or like, don't really even know what that is, with
Mhm.
a leader who is very much not just not qualified, just out of his mind. And once, Jace is kind of out of the picture, what are they going to do? They're going to be, have this situation where, just you have a bunch of lone wolves, and, it's
Mhm.
harder for, especially if they're newly turned and they don't have the experience, to kind of control this.
Yeah.
I think it's harder when you're by yourself
Mhm.
to, manage your shifting.
Yeah.
So having they kind of have this new community of, you know, lost wolves, and you're gonna have like, I mean, Greg. Oh my gosh, Greg can't lead them. He doesn't know
Yeah,
enough.
no.
So the only other person you really have is going to be Grayson to do that. That was a very long
It's okay.
explanation.
I
We
got
got
it.
there. We got
We got
there.
there. We tied it all together with a nice little knot. Nice little bow on top. Yeah. So now thinking like, okay, season 2. We know that season 2 is gonna involve the war games. That's the little tidbit we've been given, but that's about it. Other than that, we really don't know what's gonna happen.
Oh my gosh, I don't know if I
Yeah.
want to know.
I don't want to know. That's it. I'm done.
I'm officially. I'm really excited and also terrified for certain conversations to happen. I think is my thing. I want to hear, Abe's side of the story,
Yeah.
and you find out, because also something that the YouTube community doesn't know, about the Hearst files or the Hearst tapes,
Yeah.
um, where you actually find out, spoilers, you guys, um, Abe was taken by the Circle at some point, really early, like about 20 years ago, before Cam was born. Cam and his brothers were born. Was taken by the Circle, taken in for questioning, and Nicole Hearst kept a kind of audio file of her, encounters with them, and there was really, she was part of the Circle at the time too, and she worked with Dr. Felt. She found out, she was like, oh, she was really into this, or she worked with them because, like, we assume other Circle members are, they think that the Circle is,
Good.
just here to study.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
'Cause,
good.
I mean, their
There's an
whole
actual,
their whole logo, or not logo, what is it, phrase? It's like, "For the
yeah,
circle,
they're saying their
for the
catchphrase.
circle, for the world." It's like, it kinda
Mhm.
sounds like this, "Oh, we're doing this for humanity's sake." But the
Yeah.
stuff that they do.
We're keeping dangerous people in check, and we're also going to learn how to coexist, because that's also, the Circle's point, right? Like initially, like you find out, I think through, uh, I was to say Adran, uh, Adran's audios, and I think, kind of, we've talked about this, like the Circle, you know, initially was like just kind of studying supernatural beings. And Ronnie, you hear mentioned, in one audio, or like, I don't know about a couple. I think he's just in like one or like two
Yeah.
audios. He's also a vampire.
Mhm.
Spoilers.
Spoilers.
But he wants to work with. You find out in, I think, Adran's second audio, he wants to work with this new group of scientists
Yes.
that came into town, and create a school that helps bring together supernatural beings and
Mhm.
humans, and they can learn to coexist and live. And you find out there that one of the people involved in that group is Jedediah Felt,
Yes.
who is the original Felt.
Mhm.
And Adran says that he has bad
Bad
vibes.
vibes. He
Basically,
scents bad
he
things.
says,
Yeah.
yeah, he senses really bad things about him. So like, you're like, oh, this Ronnie, obviously, like, we're sure maybe he probably can sense it, but you don't know if that. Actually, we don't really know. We've never met
We don't
Ronnie,
know much about Ronnie, we
but
just know he is also a vampire, but other than that,
yeah,
no
we know
clue
he's a
about
vampire,
his,
and
like,
that he has good
abilities or
intentions.
anything, or yeah.
Nothing. I think the fact that like he's similar to his brother,
Yeah.
I think. But like we haven't met him, and we don't know like if he's actually good, if he's kind of been turned to their agenda, or at least the inner circle's agenda. Because you know, you have Nicole, right, who like is questioning Abe, but like really just about his abilities and, you know, his father, and trying to learn more about him as a son of a divine. But Feld wants to know more. The location, you know, he wants to know where, you know, Abe's dad is.
Where is he? Where?
And
How
Abe
can
doesn't
I
know.
meet him?
Can I meet him? All of that. And Nicole, I think, comes across or not stumbles, but like, you know, she like leaves the room or something, and she comes back to Abe basically being tortured for information. And that's when she realizes, I don't want to be part of this. The circle is using unethical means, you know, to get,
Like, this
you
is
know,
not what I
what
signed up
information
for,
they want.
essentially.
Yeah. And so she decides to break Abe out with 2 other people. And we're not really sure who those 2 other people are.
It's very, very vague.
No clue.
But yeah, when it comes to
We
the
just know that
Hearst
they're
tapes and the Hearst files, they're kind of like it's kind of like that kind of lore where it's like we're not sure if it's completely canon, if some things will be fixed.
because it also was really early. The
But
lore.
we're pretty sure it's
So
still gonna tie in
we're
somewhat.
pretty sure. Yeah. Or at least most of it is pretty canon. Like the fact that that's how that at least is how Abe and Nicole met.
We'll see when Cam goes to talks to his parents about what the heck just happened.
So I think like finding out about that and learning, I think that whole conversation where you learned about Abe's past and how he actually, you know, has he ever actually met? I would love to know if he ever actually has met his dad. I think Siren has said in the server that he hasn't. I can't remember, but also that was really early. So I'm hoping there's like has been like at least like one interaction or something. Because also
one birthday card, just.
I doubt there'll be a birthday card,
No.
but like, you know, because Nyx also is Nyx Nixon.
Yes.
Do you find in the most recent Ryan audio? So, you know, if he's in town, right? He comes there often enough. Surely there has to be like some kind of
interaction
like,
at some
Abe
point
has
in
to
his
either come
life.
to him, like, has Abe ever gone to him like, hey, why were you not in my life or something like that? You know, that'd be really interesting to like hear about from his perspective. But yeah, that whole conversation, him finally telling Cam, and Cam being like, did my brother, like, I love that Shane and Logan know, and Cam is the only one like out of the loop. He's like, y'all knew? I'm like, yeah. You didn't tell me?
Had to wait till you got older, but I guess you're getting older real quick because now we're gonna tell you.
For real. It'll be an interesting conversation. And also, I forget what the other one was. I guess, not Abe. Greg. Oh my
so
gosh.
Many people.
Greg. I'm just gonna call Greg every other name. Greg and Zeke finally having. I was hoping that it was gonna happen this season. This whole conversation where they like finally have a heart to heart and like, you know, maybe he doesn't reveal to him why he, you know, acted the way he did, but like he's like, I'm trying to be better. But unfortunately that didn't happen.
Didn't get that.
But hey, there's hope for the future. But now with this new development,
now Greg's dealing with his own stuff.
How is this gonna affect their relationship even more? So
I mean, at least Zeke won't be completely shocked.
Hey,
He'll be like, oh yeah, I know this. I read a file on it, you know.
It's like we both have the same level of information.
Lycanthropy, you know, totally normal thing that happens in our world. So
hopefully
Greg and Zeke have not reconciled yet, but hopefully that's what's coming in season 2.
Who else are we gonna meet, hopefully?
I mean, I'm hoping to meet or at least hear more of like the other students.
Yes. Oh
you
my
know,
goodness.
get some guest star voices in there. I'd love to just hear other students, what's going on with them.
Because you know the other students have like abilities, but also this is, I guess, from like the server what we've kind of found out. You know, we know that there are other students. Even you find it in the file. There are a lot of files in that cabinet. So, who else, you know, is actually supernatural?
Do they know
who's
about their
normal?
own abnormalities?
Do they know what the school is really about. I guess which side are they on? Yeah. So, like, who's in on it?
Mhm.
So, who has abilities, who knows about their
Yeah.
abilities, and whose side are they on in terms of pro circle, anti circle, all of that.
It's crazy just thinking about season 2. And also, like, now the circle knows that Cam, Zeke, and, Hot Stuff know about what's going on. So how
Mhm.
are they gonna keep that, under wraps?
How's that going
How
to
do they
affect
do they
everything?
expect all of them to just be quiet? Like, what kind of things would they do? I had
Mhm.
speculated in state like, kind of instating maybe, like, mandatory, dorms, because we had heard that there are dorms at Westhaven, but, like, imagining that they would require mandatory dorms or something
Yeah.
similar to that, I feel like would be good on the circle's end of things to, like, monitor people even closer now that they know that at least 3 people know about what's actually going on.
Mhm. Like, I know what I think Blair said, "You better forget what you saw."
Yeah.
Like, you also now can't account because they also didn't account for Greg,
Mhm.
right? Because Jace literally that was a spur of the moment thing. They
Yeah.
weren't like, "Oh, yeah, go bite him." I don't even think they're really involved because Jace is doing that all on his own.
Yeah,
That's his
Jace has
agenda.
got his own agenda, you
Yeah.
know?
Um, but so the circles, they literally got involved with the person that is off his rocker. Love that.
I mean,
But
they can use that to their advantage, honestly.
yeah. But also, then you have moments like this where they're like, "Oh yeah, you're blowing our cover."
Yeah, we messed up here.
It done goofed.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that was pretty much all of like Westhaven Arc 1 and kind of our theories about season 2, Arc 2 with the war games and everything. Also with the war games, I'm just kind of confused as to like what it's gonna be. Like I know they're like all training for it, but is it I really don't know what it is.
like apparently, like
Capture the
capture the
flag,
flag. Yeah.
which is
So
an
I'm like,
interesting choice.
yeah, but I'm like, well, what does that help determine?
Yeah. How does
Like,
that benefit the circle in their
mhm.
research?
Because I mean, we haven't really talked about this at all, but the circle, or the inner circle, really is their main focus right now is
Mhm.
getting access to, unlimited access to to the rest of the multiverse. So if you don't know, the
Yeah.
multiverse is Earth, or Canaan, which is the world that has half bloods and where Duke's storyline and a bunch of other story like the dragon ones and
Yes,
the
the
dragon
dragon
ones,
ones.
Abel, you have Soren, a lot of other characters, all of the demi-human characters,
Yeah.
or most of the demi-human characters. That's where they're located. And you have Grestenfell, which is the D&D world. Grestenfell is not
Yes.
as involved in the kind of crossovers.
Yeah.
I mean, you have like Aster, but that's kind of really it, and that was a commission,
Mhm.
so it's not necessarily like the
Main
most.
canon.
Yeah,
It's just loosely canon.
yeah. But the reason why Arcanum and Earth is because that's where the divines are most active,
Yeah.
and it makes you wonder. Like there's 7 inner circle members. Blah 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 blah. Um, that I think we know of, or not that we
Mhm.
know of, that in the I think Siren has said in the circle there, or at least if you look at the art, right, there are 7 kind of dots.
Yes.
And so we're like, oh, does that mean 7 members? And if so, if that's 7 members, that perfectly kind of matches up with the 7 divines.
Yes.
And they're on this hunt to find the divines. Even through their children. They were studying their children. What do they hope to find?
Yeah. There's
What's
so
the
much
goal?
to unpack there with the
Hmm.
circle, which could honestly be like honestly, I
Yep.
feel like that'd be a two-part episode for us because there really
Yes.
is so much.
There's so much to get into. So, war games, right? Because they
Yeah.
know that they need to have these 3 books called the Gate Artifacts.
Mhm.
Darlin, used one accidentally, was transported to Arcanum.
Yeah.
Um, but these books are kind of popping up all over the place.
Yeah,
So
like, and in, like, the end of certain videos, we get, Glass talking about this certain project, which we can go into at a later date, but, he talks about the gate artifacts in those and how another student, oh, yes, the purple-haired girl gets them,
he has
so
a name, you guys.
speaking of the purple-haired girl, the voice of, well, the one who does fan audios essentially, but they're pretty much connected to the canon. Less Spark voices. Um,
Yes.
yeah, we kind of maybe intend to do some lore podcasty stuff for her too, not just
On
on
her
Melody, but
universes.
like on her personal characters. So,
On the universe she's created, which I really need
yeah.
to brush up on. I listen to them all the
Um,
time, and I'm still just like, huh,
there's just so much.
there really is. But it's so much fun.
Yeah. Is that everything? Did we get it all down?
I think we've covered a lot. We went so we I think we might have to dedicate more than an hour to this.
There were so many tangents.
Dang. Yeah, no, I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay, me too, like, we're gremlins, it's part of us,
I think also, like, once we get more into, like, actual theory stuff and, like, when we start dealing with more, like, not just single episodes, but, not entire arcs,
Yeah, because this was a lot
we'll
to cover, I mean, we
yeah.
summed up everything. It just felt like a good way to start the
Yeah.
podcast.
It's good, I don't wanna say practice, but I guess this is a good practice.
Yeah, it's a good summary for anyone who needs to catch up before season 2, I guess.
Mhm. And we didn't even
I
include all
hope
the
it's
side
helpful.
characters.
Yeah, oh god.
Oh my gosh, there's just so much to get into.
First episode of the Lore Gremlins podcast, it's official. Oh my god.
This is
I
fun.
know. I hope you guys listening out there, I hope somebody's listening. I hope you
Oh my
had a
gosh.
I hope it's not just us
If not, at
that
least we had fun. Honestly, if it is, it's fine.
it's fine. Well, we can at least be proud that we know so much.
Yes. I mean, you, peachy brains of the operation.
No, I'm not.
Really.
I'm not.
You really are.
I'm
'Cause
just the
I
archivist. I just file everything in.
people actually writing stuff down is, like, mind-blowing to me. I just kinda go off memory, and it shows in how much I'm how often I'm wrong.
Unpacking everything. It was a lot, but I can't
Oh,
wait for
yeah.
like future episodes. Oh god, when we do an episode on the architect, I am going off. That's my
Yes.
man,
Oh my
my
goodness, I'm
favorite
so
person.
excited. And we're gonna have basically a lecture
hmm
for that episode and Rex.
I'll be like, "Hey, students, time to listen up
Listen up. This is my PowerPoint presentation
on
on
why I love
how
Rex."
on why I love Rex, why he is not the best boy, but he can be the best boy.
hmm
Why he has good intentions. Dang. Okay, so yeah, this was the first episode of the podcast. Um I'd like to say I think we're gonna do more.
hmm
I think. Yes. Heck yeah. Um, you know, let us know what you think. What we should talk about.
Yeah,
If you have any
any
theories of your own.
suggestions.
hmm any questions or like crack theories that you think we could go into. Um, any it's kind of clear, like characters you want more information. If we can, if there's information to be given,
hmm
what more we can go into. What characters do you want, to us to talk more about.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah.
yeah.
You said in the comments we're gonna, give a link to all of Siren's stuff.
Yes.
That it's you're so much more, eloquent with
I
this.
wrote it
We're going
down,
to
okay? If I said it off the top of my head, I wouldn't have known. Now everybody knows. I've wrote it down. I read off a
yeah.
script, you guys.
See, because she plans ahead, y'all. I just go by the seat of my pants. That's a saying. Yeah, that's a
Yes.
saying. See, this is a perfect example. I just kind of say what comes to my brain,
You're just
and
riffing,
it
you know?
usually doesn't work out. Yeah. Uh, yeah, just improvising. So we're gonna link to his channel, to the videos, or at least to some of the videos that we talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
Link to
gonna
his
give links to
Discord to
yeah, link to his Discord. Become
join
a
the Lore
gremlin.
Gremlins. Become as
Join the
chaotic as
horde.
us.
Truly, yeah. We sound disorganized, but there are people there like Peachy who have
No.
some really great ideas, and are really great at theorizing, and it's a lot of fun. It gets a little chaotic, but it genuinely is a lot of fun. There are a lot of great people there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope. What do you do? The whole like and subscribe.
Like and
The
subscribe, share with your
notification.
friends.
Yeah. Hit the notification bell.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Um, yeah, just I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed our rambling.
Yes.
Hope you
Please,
enjoyed
in the
our many
comments, give us
talking mistakes.
any critiques. Please be nice. Because
Yeah.
we are
Don't be
people,
like too harsh.
but
Yeah. I'm a sensitive being.
sensitive.
I really Dang. But yeah. I mean, we'll try to be I'd say I'm gonna try and be less stuttering and stumbling and all that, but I doubt it.
Just like Siren's lore, we will grow too.
We're gonna develop as podcast hosts.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is getting worse. Okay, let's wrap it up.
We're rambling. Okay, thank you guys
We're
for
rambling now.
listening.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Bye. Hopefully we see you again. Come
Yes.
back and listen.